Here is this 2008 Subaru Impreza WRX STI in Obsidian Black Pearl. This is a car that we bought out of California from a Hyundai dealer in San Diego. And I believe this was the general manager's car. And they gave us a little bit of paperwork on some recent stuff they've done to it. Overall, it's a very clean car. But these videos, I make them to highlight all the imperfections and just give you an idea of what you're buying. So the paint on the car looks awesome for the age and the miles. Car has right around 54,000 miles. I do have a fog light cover. The only reason why I haven't put it on yet is I need to trim it, and I don't have my grinder here to do so. But that is coming with the car. It does have the factory STI lip. Being a black car, you know, there's going to be some imperfections in the paint that you'll see in this color versus other colors such as white or yellow or red. But you will have your typical rock chips. But all in all, it's not bad. And then typically on these cars, the scoop itself, these things tend to oxidize and get sun faded, and the scoop looks really good. Projector headlights. There's very minimal dents on this car, but I'll try my best to point them out. And there's a really tiny dent right there in that body line. Overall, very good. Very little door dings, if any. Show you the top of the wing. You can kind of see it starting to oxidize up here. And the reason is the paint is super thin on the plastics on these cars. It does have the wing raiser. Kind of give it a little bit more aggressive look. The pairing wing raisers. And the car is lowered on Tane coilovers with raised, beautiful wheels. These are real wheels, very expensive if you curb them or damage them. Fully forged, super strong. Aren't prone to bending or cracking such as other cheaper design wheels. And of course, you got your iconic Subaru Mud Flaps because this is a WRX. And you just gotta have the mud flaps. But overall, super clean. Show you the roof. Windshield. The hood scoop is out so it can clear these fuel lines and that regulator bracket. We're gonna pop the hood and kind of give you an idea of the what's going on in the engine bay. So this car does have a built motor, of course. However, we aren't sure what internals it has exactly, but we do know it's got a built motor, and I believe it's got upgraded cams. It does have the ARP case bolts, as you can see, which is a dead giveaway that this is a built block. You know, even the block and the heads, they look fairly new on this car. You know, full bolt-ons, all the supporting mods, if not more than what you typically see. If anything that should be added onto the car, I would look into getting maybe a catch can made for it. You have room up here. It has a bottle for your excess oil, but a real catch can will look good and have a pretty good purpose on this car. But we're gonna go over, you know, what you see on the outside, everything that we can tell. It does have a full fuel system, lines all the way to the tank. With the FPR. It does have an in-tank Walbro 525 fuel pump and the radium hanger. So it's got a pretty nice setup. This is a custom reverse mount turbo kit. We aren't sure who made this. There's one other company that doesn't like this, and it's called Fat Force Air Tech. And they verified this is not their kit, so there's not a whole lot of options out there on whose kit that could be, but maybe if you want to really know, you can dig into the forums and find out. But it has a Garrett GT 30R turbo. You have the polished exhaust housing, looks really cool. The whole exhaust is Cerakoted from the header all the way up to the mufflers. So someone put a lot of work into the small little details of this car. Then you got your tile external wastegate. So it does have atmospheric dump. You know, as far as fuel system, other than the radium, in-tank assembly, we do have air motive fuel rails with ID 1300X injectors. So it's designed to run pump gas and ethanol without having to worry about damaging the internals. You do have your fuel pressure gauge on the rails themselves. Air motive makes really good quality stuff. I've ran them on my old drag car, so I'm a big fan of this stuff. Really don't see any issues with it. And then your FPR is sitting right here. This looks like it was a custom bracket, but all AN lines, very nice setup. The car is still on MAF, which is odd, but it runs pretty good on it. But maybe down the road looking to converting this to speed density, so no issues if you get a boost leak and whatnot. But quality parts, tile blow-off valve. We believe it's a parent header. I got my flashlight. There's some goodies underneath this car. It's got a Killer Bee bigger volume oil pan. So see if we can get you to see that. And of course, they'll have the pickup tube and whatnot. This should hold about 6 or 6.5 quarts of oil. Then you have the under brace, upgraded sway bars, believe they're white line. Lots of good stuff. And again, the coilovers are tan coilovers. Not sure what intercooler core this is. Usually I use Treadstone because this isn't an off-the-shelf kit to my knowledge. Typically your hard pipes are going to be custom made, so you won't really expect like an ETS or an AMS intercooler. Then you have your coil rad radiator. Another thing with this kit and the way they ran everything is there's no more AC. So I am in Arizona. You're gonna have an awful time driving this car in the summer. I figure whoever buys this is probably gonna be looking more for road racing. And of course, you're not really gonna want that AC for that. If it's that big of a deal, you are able to, add it back on there, but it will be some work. Your dipstick will have to move as well. And as well as the air pump, that's gone. I mean, there's no option. You can't run that anymore. But this is theoretically, a race car. You're gonna lack some comforts, but you're gonna gain performance in certain areas. What else? So power-wise, the car makes about 500 wheel, I believe at 25 pounds on ethanol, E85. There are a lot of E54 stations in Arizona, but this car is straight tuned for E85. You can always look into getting the Cobb Flex Fuel kit to so you have that, adjustability with the fuel. But if you running, Flex Fuel, just make sure it's full E85. And then for pump gas, it should make right around 390, 400 wheel. It's super conservative on that. Even if this is a piston rod head stud motor, you're good for almost 600 wheels. So you're not even pushing the limits. And that's what typical built motors, people do, mainly piston rods and head studs and stock heads and cams, and you're still good for about 500 horsepower all day long. So nice thing with the wastegate is water cooled as well, so you're not going to have issues with that if the car does get hot. Another nice thing, if you do plan to track that, there's little things that kind of make up. So this car does have a unique start process. As you tell, there is no battery in the engine bay. That guy is in the trunk. So there is a shut-off switch. We're going to go back here. I'll show you. So we have our battery here, and there's a shut-off switch. Theoretically, you can leave the power on, but this type of battery won't necessarily hold a charge for a very long time. I usually just shut the whole power off when I park it. If you're going to leave this outside overnight, leave that power on so you can actually lock the car. But if not, you're going to turn it off. It's going to kill all power. You're not going to have the security system and whatnot. And that is a cover for it too. But what we're going to do is, let's say the car is sat in your garage for a week, and assume you shut the power off. So this is the startup sequence. So we're going to go over here. we're gonna go back here and turn this on, and the car will beep. It's just fine, you know, get used to that. Car has live power going to it. And, you know, keep in mind, whenever you shut that power off, you're gonna, you know, reset the values in the ECU. So it's gonna have to relearn your fuel trims and whatnot. So 9 out of 10 times your startup won't be super smooth the first time, but after once it learns, and it'll be a lot smoother. But I'm showing you it in the raw. So we're gonna go in here. You know, you're gonna have your key. The key is only designed to really unlock the steering wheel. You're gonna have your main power here. So fuel pumps on, ignition, all that good stuff. And then this is gonna be your starter. So, you know, hold clutch down and start it up. Right now it started really good, actually. Then you got 2 more toggle switches. So this is for your AFR gauge. So you turn that on. And then this is for the lighting for the genome gauges. And these are super rare, very expensive gauges. But power on, you got your oil pressure, oil temp, water temp. These all work. And then you got your boost gauge. They're all in bar settings. So this is more of, you know, like JDM style. They don't necessarily go off PSI, they mainly go off bar. So do that calculation in your head if you need to, or get used to that. I'll give you a little walk around so you can hear the car. Sounds awesome when you get in. Turbo's super loud, spools up super loud. Fuel pressure is good. The car runs very well. Even on a hot day, it stays pretty cool. And I'm gonna open my garage real quick so we can let it warm up. Try to give you an exhaust rev. We'll go back in the trunk. Show you what all you got. There are some stuff that's going to come with the car. You know, obviously you're going to have the access port. This goes over your battery. This is your adjustment for the coilovers. Show you underneath the car if I can. No rust. This is a rust-free car, of course, for you Colorado and East Coast guys. You don't need to worry about that on this thing. See if I can plug the access port in for us. The car is tuned by Ready to Race, I believe, also known as the Dyno Shop in SoCal. They're the ones that had done a lot of the fuel system stuff to this car. It's very recent, and I have a pretty expensive receipt for all that stuff. And then your TPMS lights on because there's no sensors in these wheels. Show you right here. Our dam's looking good. I have drove this car. I put about 100 miles on it, so it runs flawless. I'm gonna move it up a little bit so I can put the phone down so you can kind of hear the exhaust. So having this bigger turbo, if you get on the launch control, it's not going to spool up as hard as it would if it was a stock turbo. But if you have a really good tuner, they'll know how to make it spool up almost like anti-lag. But that turbo is super loud. When you start getting on it, it sounds awesome. Anyways, you want to make sure this car is still available, go to azautohunters.com. If we don't have this one, we might have others like this limited. I have another white hatch currently, but just keep an eye on our website because we do deal a lot in these badass cars. So anyways, thanks for watching.